Distinguished Prime Minister, President of the World Bank, Mr. Kim, distinguished ministers, participants, ladies and gentlemen. Of course, Izmir has been the gate to outside world for Turkey for over a century, and it has been the pioneer in tourism, foreign trade and industrialization. It's therefore a great pleasure for me to be together with you in Izmir, and let me welcome each and every one of you. We are here convened for the 5th Izmir Economic Congress, and the first one was organized between February 17th and March 4th, 1923, way before the signing of the Lausanne Treaty and the proclamation of the Republic. And the first Congress was organized with the participation of 1,135 people. So that first Congress, realized under the presidency of Mustafa Kemal Atatürk, is of great historical significance and constitutes yet another reminder of the pivotal role of economic survival in ensuring our nation's freedom and independence. And it's indeed an extraordinary and visionary achievement to organize such a broadly participated Congress when one considers the conditions of the period for our country and nation. As a matter of fact, the history of nations is the history of economic conditions as well. And only those nations which had ensured their economic survival could sustain their historical existence and civilization. The nations with no or weakened economic vitality did either languish or disappear over the course of time. In this respect, the formulation of the roadmap for economic survival through the first Economic Congress, immediately after the victorious War of Independence, and even before the signing of the peace treaty, is a clear indication of how strong the foundations of our country are. It's always important to keep the following fact in mind. The national unity of many countries is built upon the sharing of a common economic fate. The formation of the United States of America and the historical integrations, such as the Italian and German unions, are striking examples of this fact. Our country's population was only 12 million in 1923. And the first Congress marked a huge step forward in planning the economic future. We have definitely achieved great things in meeting those targets over the course of 90 years. And the Turkish economy today has a GDP of approximately $1 trillion, and thus we have become the 16th biggest economy in the world and the 6th biggest in Europe. Moreover, we are now integrated with global economies. That's why it is indeed very matching and meaningful to name the adventure of Izmir Economic Congress as a journey from national to global over the course of 90 years. And it's also very well fitting to select the theme of this Congress as the Turkish economy in the light of the global restructuring. Distinguished guests, the current process of globalization accelerates the flow of history, changes the chemistry of societies, and deeply affects the fate of countries and continents. Lagging behind within this process, and even in opposite direction to the historical flow, would result in irreparable results and conditions for both the present and future generations. Globalization, despite all these risks, did bring forward great opportunities too. It's now very easy to have access to knowledge in the age of information, and many countries have benefited from such opportunities and managed to leap forward in terms of economic and human development. Globalization has gained momentum in the last 30 years, and the economic center of gravity for the world has once again shifted towards Asia after an interval of 200 years. Moreover, the revolution in ICT and social networks have also played an important role in the expansion of democracy towards our nearby geography and regions. Turkey is located on a critical part of the world in terms of the shift of world's economic center of gravity towards Asia, and also in terms of the dissemination of democratic values towards the MENA region. Our country is on the junction of these two fundamental dynamics. Therefore, it gives us a unique historical opportunity. I believe that all assessments, deliberations and projections to be made within the 5th Economic Congress must take these fundamental dynamics and facts into account. Distinguished Prime Minister, distinguished participants, we have just celebrated the 90th anniversary of the proclamation of our Republic, and this meaningful day has further been crowned with the opening of the Marmaray project. Thank God, Turkey is now a country setting ambitious targets and managing to achieve those targets. Of course, these achievements have come to fruition largely as a result of the political stability and the legal, democratic and economic reforms within the last 11 years. So let me use this opportunity to congratulate our government and institutions within the economic management for their hard work in obtaining those results, acknowledged by the whole world. But we must not forget that the history keeps flowing and there is an international competition amongst nations. Therefore, we still have a lot of room to cover, a lot of progress to make. That's why we need a realistic vision to devise the roadmap for our future, starting from now. And actually these meetings are aimed at ensuring this. In this context, we have the 10th five-year development plan for the period 2014-2018. And this Congress is organized under the light of that plan, and this Congress is a well-timed and highly useful platform for Turkey to attain her 2023 targets. We have the global economic crisis in place for the last 5 years, as a result of which people have started questioning many previously accepted values, from production to consumption, from foreign trade to exchange rates, from international financial markets and relevant practices to international competition, from oversight of national and international authorities to regulation. Many issues are now being reshaped, restructured, and new balances are being established for many countries and for many continents. The international and regional conjuncture does actually present us with a golden opportunity to overcome the gaps between us and developed countries in terms of welfare and human development. That's why we have to solidify our diplomatic gains. We have to guarantee a sustainable, rapid growth so that we can reinforce our political and economic stability for the 30 years to come in order to make use of this golden opportunity. And all these can only be done if we make good use of the 4 dividends that I would like to underline. The first dividend is the demographic dividend. The other, the democratic dividend. Then comes the peace and the knowledge dividends. We have to make full use of these 4 dividends so that we can then achieve our 2023 targets in a far more successful and effective manner. We have a young and dynamic population exceeding 75 million. Therefore, this population gives us a demographic dividend, and we have to make good use of it. But in order to do so, we need a good education system so that we can create a qualified human capital in our country. Turkey has been implementing successful policies over the course of the last decade, resulting in political stability, macroeconomic balances, and reinforced growth potential, leading to successful structural transformations. But one should note that the structural transformation is yet to be complete. We have successfully collected the fruits of the first generation reforms. But now, in order for Turkey to become even more advanced amongst all developed nations, we now need second generation reforms. And as part of the second generation reforms, Turkey's first priority must be to improve and enhance the existing quality of education. I've said it many times. A large population with good education and science would create an immense power. On the contrary, if the population is deprived of educational quality, then we would end up facing major societal problems and we will start experiencing difficulties in terms of human development. Turkey must face a critical test in the years to come, the middle income trap, and we keep discussing whether Turkey will overcome this or not. There are countries who have managed to overcome this trap, and when you check them, the share of educational expenditures in their respective GDPs is around 6%, whereas countries who have failed to overcome the middle income trap, the share of educational expenditures were only around 3%. As for Turkey, our 2014 budget has allocated a share of 4.5% of the GDP to educational expenditures. I am proud with this, and I am sure that this number will be increased from 4.5% to 6% in the days to come. In order to make good use of the demographic dividend, we also have to make sure that women, who form half of our population, have an increased access to labor force markets. So female labor force participation has to be increased. Distinguished guests, recent research on economic growth and human development indicate that letting individuals use their own initiatives, overcoming obstacles in front of entrepreneurship, encouragement of participation, strengthening democratic rules and institutions are all amongst important factors that lead to growth. And countries that lack robust democratic institutions and institutional capacities lag behind in the economic competition. Therefore, in order for us to be part of this international competition of development, we must also make use of a second dividend, the democracy dividend, because democracy means law. It means fair and transparent practice of laws and rules. It means that decisions are taken not subjectively but objectively by taking into account the free will of the people. We had interruptions to the democratic life in the history of our country, and those coincided with terms of economic recession and problems. That's why, in order to raise our democratic standards, we have to work harder to improve the unity and integrity of our country. It would lead to a more prosperous people, open to innovation and entrepreneurship. It will also mean assurance for the foreign capital so that they can come in and invest in our country. It would improve the overall climate. Therefore, we need to come up with these solutions in order to make sure that our economic and human resources are used in the most effective manner. So Turkey has realized many reforms, enabling economic reforms, and we have carried out democratization reforms and reforms aimed at further improving the rule of law. And as a result of all these reforms, we are now at a stage which we are all proud of. On the other hand, the final objective of economic power and welfare is ensuring the happiness of people. I mean, no matter how rich a country is, as long as the people are deprived of their fundamental rights and freedoms, then one cannot talk about freedoms. So to sum up, improving our democratic standards would not only yield political gains, but it would also continue to contribute to the economic development of our country.
The third dividend that we have to achieve in order to reach the development level that we have desired should be the dividend of knowledge, because during the last 200 years, in other words, after the Industrial Revolution, the differences of development is based on the technological developments and the innovation. This had been the most important factor as a determinant. In our age, this process has been accelerated further during the last decade in order to improve in our competitive power and to improve the investment environment. We had achieved significant developments to produce with higher added value. As of today, we have progressed from lower added value manufacturing to medium level added value. But in spite of that, in our total exports, we do see that the share of the high added value products are not that high. It is still low. And we believe that this is of crucial importance in order to find a solution to our current account deficits. And how are we going to achieve this? In order to do that, we have to be giving up the path that is focused on the accumulation of the manufacturing factors based on the classical productivity economy, but base ourselves to the knowledge economy. And for that, rather than competing based on cheap labor force, we have to have a better competition model, because there would always be other countries who would be able to have cheaper labor force. And for that, we need to be producing higher added value products, but yet we haven't been able to do that. The countries who have fell into the trap of middle income problem is based on their style of basing their manufacturing on the classical productivity economy paradigm. And for that, they're trying to produce to a cheaper price with higher productivity. When we look at the other countries who do produce with higher added value, we see that they are focusing on knowledge technologies, and they produce and they manufacture based on those principles in terms of creating a difference in terms of marketing and distribution. They are focused on innovation, and those countries are acquiring the dividend of the knowledge while they're growing their economy. And the accumulation of the manufacturing factors in the classical sense would make it more difficult for those countries to go to a higher league. For that reason, we have to be focusing on education, science, R&D, technology and innovation as an economic growth strategy. And I'm very happy to observe that in our 10th five-year development plan, we do have realistic targets set and consistent strategies established. Valuable guests as the nation, in order to develop economically, no matter what type of measures we take within our country, still we cannot be immune from the general problems of the region we're located in and the global issues. In an era where interdependence is so high, anything that happens in one country, in one region, about economy, politics, humanitarian matters, or military crisis, starting with the neighboring countries, the whole world will be affected from those developments. Just like it was stated by the distinguished Prime Minister, suddenly, because of the things that happen to take place in our neighbor, we are faced faced with a significant cost that we have to bear. The countries that we had very close ties of trade and commerce, the ties had been disconnected suddenly. None of them were under control. So those were the developments that were taking place in our region and closely relating us as well. It is for that reason one of the basic conditions of a sustainable economic growth and development is to ensure regional peace and stability. Briefly, the peace dividend, as we may call it, after the Second World War in the Western world and after the Cold War in the Eastern world, is a phenomena that we have experienced. During the last 60 years, the economic growth and prosperity in the European Union countries really indicated and proven to everyone how important the peace dividend is. Turkey, after the Cold War, made best use of the peace dividend after the end of the Cold War. But many years we haven't been able to make use of the full potential of this peace dividend because of the other events that have taken place in our region, and it's a pity that those events are still continuing. The more peace, security and stability exist among our neighbors in our region, there would be that much of trade and economic potential. For that reason, Turkey would be the country that would benefit most from the peace and stability to be established in the region. For that reason, Turkey should always work for stability, peace and cooperation as the leading actor in this region. For that reason, the multidimensional regions getting normalized and stabilized surrounding our country would be of great importance for us. For that reason, the conflict culture in those regions should be changed with cooperation and integration understanding, so that we would also contribute to the domestic peace of our country and to the prosperity of our country. The more we would be able to resolve our matters, deep-rooted matters, and we would reinforce the peace in our country, and we would be successful in our region, and the whole region will again pick up with a new development process. On the other hand, all the crisis, commotion, and the domestic wars going on in the areas surrounding our country would be avoided, and it is of great importance that we try our best to contribute to the peace process in this regard, not only for our own security, but also for the economic prosperity of our country as well. In brief, a country like Turkey, who had reinforced its domestic peace and contributed the establishment of peace in the neighboring geographies, will be expecting a glorious future. Distinguished participants, as I have stated in my opening address of the Turkish Grand National Assembly, market economies at the moment are now having expanded monetary policies, but they are going to abandon it in a short while. For that reason, as of last May, the Fed president had actionless expressions that he had used about the capital movements, foreign exchanges, and interest rates had very influential effect over the whole system. For that reason, we have to be mitigating the negative effects of the latest economic developments. For that reason, we need to find the solution to the current account deficit in the medium and in the long run that keeps our growth and savings down. For that reason, all the measures that are foreseen in the fifth development, the 10th five-year development plan should be put into place, and 18% savings that are foreseen for the year of 2018 should be reached. And at the same time, we need to be rectifying and improving income distribution, eliminate the poverty, and also deepening the capital markets and struggling against the unregistered economy and eliminating the regional differences should be put into life through the structural reforms that are necessary to be realized. In general, we do see that politics and democracy, while we talk about those concepts, we always talk about the brake mechanisms, the balance mechanisms, checks and balances, as we call them, plays a very important role in the system. And in this regard, having a functioning market economy reinforces the trade and the economic principles. Principle of transparency always helps the decision-making processes in a professional sense. Professionalism should be emphasized, and at the same time, having transparency and accountability in the public expenditures is of great importance. Distinguished Prime Minister, valuable participants, we are celebrating the 90th anniversary of our Republic, and in 10 years' time, we will be celebrating the 100th anniversary of our deep roots to be established of our Republic, and the 1000th anniversary that we got deep-rooted on those lands. For that reason, we need to be making best use of the time remaining before us, before the 1000th anniversary and the 100th anniversary. And we have to mobilize the whole society to get to the forefront of the contemporary civilizations, and we should not be consuming our energy for unnecessary struggles and vicious circles, and establish political stability. And we should not again get into the dead ends as we've done in the past. As I have stated before, the history is flowing in a rapid pace now, and in this age the ones looking right or left would not, but the ones who look ahead and run for their objectives will be achieving what they head for. Today we are organizing the 5th Izmir Economic Congress, and I'm sure that, and I do hope that, will prepare the roadmap that will carry Turkey further. And at the same time, I would like to congratulate everyone who had organized the Ministry of Development and everyone who had contributed in the organization of this meeting, the valuable President of the World Bank. We believe your presence to be of great importance. We're very happy to have you here, and very valuable participants are among us today and will be sharing their valuable ideas, which will be of major contribution for our region, for all of us, and for the whole world. Once again, I wish success for your meeting and express my deepest respects and greetings. Thank you.